China is now closely watching the war in Ukraine, like a panda sitting in front of the television, holding a bowl of steaming dumplings, watching the European version of A Bite of China. We all hope that Ukraine will successfully resist Russia's invasion, and we all hope that the panda's dumplings will not be eaten, right? China-US relations are also another hotspot. The United States invited the Chinese defense minister to meet in Singapore, which is like a terrible date. Imagine saying to someone you don't really like, let's go to Singapore, I heard the durians there are delicious. And then China's response is like, thank you, but I prefer to eat steamed buns. In the South China Sea, the interaction between Chinese fighter jets and U.S. reconnaissance aircraft is like a high-altitude chase game, only this is a game without a trophy, no audience, and no finish line. The United States says that China is provoking, and China says that the United States is provoking. It's like two children arguing about who put their hand on the cookie jar first, except this cookie jar happens to be the international airspace of the South China Sea. International relations are indeed complicated, especially for China. It's like playing a half game of mahjong, and all the cards you get are a mess. You don't know how to play next, but you know you can't quit because you've already bet a hot pot meal with your friends. So, you can only keep playing, hoping that you can get good cards. Hello everyone, I'm your news anchor Yali. We provide one-stop service for China-related news every day. You can't find this anywhere else. If you have any opinions or ideas on these topics, please leave a message in the comments section. We will read and reply to your comments seriously. By the way, I heard someone asking, are you joking? Yes, I am joking, but I am also talking about news. You might say, what a brain-burning combination, and I will tell you that this is me, a comedian newsman. The United States accused Chinese fighter jets of unnecessarily provocative interception of U.S. reconnaissance aircraft in the international airspace of the South China Sea, and China called on the United States to stop dangerous provocative actions and not to blame China. This is one of the most intense friction events between the U.S. and Chinese militaries this year. Tesla CEO Elon Musk visited China and met with senior Chinese officials. As the big boss of Twitter, Musk did not post on social media, nor did he post on his official Weibo. It seems that Musk is very low-key about his visit to China. Musk told Chinese officials that the company opposes decoupling and breaking chains between the two largest economies in the world. It sounds like Musk is saying, you two stop arguing, I want to do business. Qin Gang from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that China-US relations are like driving a Tesla car, which requires steering the wheel in time, braking in time to avoid dangerous driving, and being good at stepping on the accelerator. It seems that the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs still has a sense of humor. And Musk's visit to Beijing, being received by several ministers, has caused Washington skepticism about the relationship between Musk and China. It seems that Musk's arrival has added a touch of uncertainty to Sino-US relations. Starbucks, the U.S. chain coffee brand, has a new global CEO, Laxman Narasimhan. After taking office, he visited China for the first time on Tuesday, May 30th, and said he hopes China will become Starbucks' largest market in the future. And stirs up an AI craze with his trillions in net worth, has invested over 4 billion RMB in Taiwan to foster talent, creating quite a stir. In the next week, Huang will visit China. It seems his interest in the Chinese market remains high. The United States has sanctioned 17 individuals and entities in China and Mexico, accusing them of fueling the fentanyl epidemic. This has sparked protests from the Chinese embassy in the United States. The U.S. Department of Commerce has tightened scrutiny on export applications to China, with 26% being rejected last year. At the same time, the U.S. and the European Union have also pledged to join hands in dealing with China's non-market economic behavior and disinformation about the war in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated that the U.S. and Europe are increasingly converging on their approach to China, and should unite to determine how an open world should act, how to reduce dependence, and how to mitigate risk. The stances on China policy between the U.S. and Europe are converging, with recent EU statements matching U.S. policy closely. In recent months, EU officials have acknowledged that they are moving closer to the U.S. stance on China due to increased awareness of China's economic ambitions and its dominant position in some global supply chains. China's recent decision to ban domestic operators of key information infrastructure from purchasing Micron technology products continues to stir controversy. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo recently reaffirmed U.S. firm opposition to China's actions against Micron chips. This calls to mind a phrase, bans may become a new tool used in future geopolitical disputes. It seems this economic war has a long way to go. Concerns about military conflict and increasing security issues have prompted some U.S. manufacturers to reassess their dependence on China. Executives are planning alternative supply chains or designing products that can be produced elsewhere in case they are unable to work with China's hundreds of thousands of factories. In 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice charged 9 individuals suspected of acting as agents for the Chinese Communist Party, secretly conducting Operation Fox Hunt in the U.S. on behalf of Chinese law enforcement, aiding the Chinese government in harassing and monitoring overseas Chinese living in the U.S., and coercing them to return to China to face criminal charges. This case officially went to trial in the Eastern District of New York Federal Court on May 31. We have also noticed news of alleged Chinese spies trying to infiltrate a U.S. military base in Alaska under the guise of tourists. Perhaps this is what is referred to as the spy game, but I believe we all know that this is no laughing matter. Let's look at the latest situation in the South China Sea. The spokesperson for the White House National Security Council, Kobe, stated that a Chinese fighter jet intercepted a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft in the South China Sea, forcing it to fly through its jet wash. However, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command stated that the RC-135 was conducting safe and routine operations in the international airspace over the South China Sea according to international law at the time. It seems that the tense situation in the South China Sea has not eased. Maritime law enforcement personnel in Johor, Malaysia, are investigating 32 crew members, including 21 Chinese nationals, on a Chinese Fuzhou registered engineering ship. The ship is suspected of stealing the remains of a sunken British warship from World War II in the South China Sea near Pahang. It seems these crew members are truly up to no good. Xiao Bai-kim, Taiwan's representative to the U.S., met with media in Washington, emphasizing that the Chinese People's Liberation Army poses a serious threat to peace in the Taiwan Strait. The fact that Ukraine was able to successfully resist Russia's invasion with the help of the United States and other countries is very important to prevent China from attempting to invade Taiwan. Xiao Bai-kim also stated that U.S.-Taiwan cooperation continues to deepen, and Taiwan's elections will not affect bilateral relations. The Biden administration's $500 million military aid to Taiwan, including the first batch of Stinger air defense missiles, has triggered strong dissatisfaction in Beijing, which claims that this is an attempt to arm Taiwan like a porcupine, creating an Asian version of Ukraine. It seems that the conflict between China and the United States over the Taiwan issue is escalating. Let's look at the latest situation in Sino-Indian relations. Over the past month, China and India have each forced multiple journalists from the other country to leave by refusing visas, almost severing media contact between the two countries. This reminds us of a saying, without communication, there can be no understanding. It seems that the tense relationship between China and India has a long way to go. In addition, India's population has surpassed China's, making it the most populous country in the world. China's population policy might need some adjustments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has lasted for over 3 years globally, but the origin of the virus is still unresolved. Gao Fu, the former director of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, recently told the BBC that a laboratory leak of the novel coronavirus cannot be ruled out. This inevitably brings back some previous rumors, and one can't help but wonder what the truth is. It seems the origin of the epidemic is still a mystery. The Chinese Academy of Sciences announced this year's quota for newly elected academicians, totaling 79, and stated that 3 types of people, including those who have been dealt with due to moral misconduct, academic misconduct, and violations of scientific ethics, are not eligible for candidacy in principle. It appears that China's scientific community is strengthening the management and supervision of talent, which is a good thing. China's Shenzhou 16-man spacecraft was successfully launched and successfully docked with the Tianhe core module of the Tiangong space station. The 3 astronauts successfully entered the orbital module from the return capsule of the spacecraft, marking the full shift of the Chinese space station into normal operation mode. China's space program has rapidly completed a 3-step plan within the past 30 years, but the pace of China's international space cooperation has been slowed down due to the tense geopolitical situation. Although international space cooperation can help establish China's image as a leader in science and technology, China's close relationship with Russia could become a hindrance for other countries to cooperate with China's space program. Since October 2022, none of the 24 members of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China have been women, a first in the past 20 years. The United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women pointed out that the lack of women in the senior leadership of the Chinese government is a cause for concern. It makes us wonder, where have China's female leaders gone? Let's talk about the Chinese economy. Recent data shows that the decline in manufacturing activity is faster than expected, with the manufacturing PMI shrinking for 2 consecutive months, providing more solid evidence that the economic rebound is losing momentum. Due to weakened demand, the contraction of factory activity in China in May was greater than expected, with the May PMI still below the boom-bust line. Both supply and demand have slowed down, and China's weak recovery is bringing pressure on policymakers, who may wait until the Political Bureau meeting in July for solutions. At the same time, Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, is visiting China, facing fierce competition from local manufacturers, and the expansion plan of his Shanghai factory remains uncertain. Jamie Dimon, the chairman of J.P. Morgan Chase, also warned that the uncertainty of China's government policies could change the confidence of the Chinese people themselves. Jamie Dimon called for genuine engagement between the U.S. and China, warning that the uncertainty of Beijing's policies hurts investment confidence. It seems that the instability of U.S.-China relations has raised concerns among international investors. Let's talk about the June 4th incident. On May 35, a Taiwanese theater group re-performed an unperformable June 4th stage play in Hong Kong. The performance was held on the eve of the 34th anniversary of the June 4th incident, and the box office was sold out for all 6 performances. The organizers believe that with China's threats and influence on Taiwan and the world expanding, stage plays themed on the June 4th incident will be more attractive. However, the director and actors of this theater group are not afraid of the potential risks of the national security law. They are willing to give up the Hong Kong market and want to tell the story of the mothers of the victims of the Tiananmen Square incident to more people. I think this is the courage and sense of responsibility of artists. Radio Free Asia solicited the June 4th experiences of young people, and the response was enthusiastic. At the same time, we also saw an article titled, After 2000, How I Learned About June 4th, which described the views of a student studying in an international school in China. This post-2005 individual stated that he began to question the government when the Wuhan pneumonia was raging, and the Red Cross incident completely changed his attitude. This reminds us that the various actions of the Chinese government have aroused the skepticism and reflection of the younger generation. It makes us think that even under the enclosure of the Great Firewall, history and facts can never be concealed. Perhaps, only through our efforts can more people understand the truth. The revised version of the National Security Law in China's Macau Special Administrative Region came into effect this week, and the new version is more stringent than before. After Macau's transfer of sovereignty in 1999, it retained the Portuguese-style judicial system, but like Hong Kong, its basic law has Article 23, which requires the SAR to legislate on its own to safeguard China's national security. Macau promulgated the first National Security Law in 2009, and the new amendment emphasizes preventing external forces from intervening in Macau. A mosque with an Arabic appearance in Yunnan province was forcibly demolished by the authorities, leading to conflicts between local Muslim residents and the police. The Wei people in Tongai County, Yunnan protested against the authorities' demolition of the dome of the mosque, and the police warned those involved to turn themselves in by June 6. It seems that religious and cultural conflicts are still a major problem facing Chinese society. Farmers in Nanyang, Henan hired a large number of outside harvesters to assist with the harvest during the wheat harvest season as usual. However, these harvesters were stuck in Tanga under the jurisdiction of Nanyang City after being loaded into trucks and driven onto the highway. A column in The Economist pointed out that the Chinese government has cracked down on LGBTQ rights groups, making us wonder, what is the Communist Party of China really afraid of? Perhaps it's due to social conservatism and suspicion of foreign infiltration that the Chinese government is biased against LGBTQ rights. Recently, many Chinese human rights lawyers and their families have been forced to move by landlords, or harassed by the police, indicating that the human rights situation in China remains severe. At the China-Tibet Development Forum, China's President Xi Jinping made a rare comment on Tibet through a letter. Observers believe that this move by Xi Jinping is a response to the G7's concern about human rights in Tibet. He Yongchen, the party secretary of Agong Town, Luoping County, Kajing City, Yunnan Province, was investigated for suspected drunk driving, but was subsequently promoted. This is really surprising. People's Daily published stories of young people leading a decent life by delivering meals, recycling garbage, setting up snack stalls, fishing and farming. It attempts to shift the blame for the government's policies that have damaged the economy, including crackdowns on the private sector, imposition of unnecessarily harsh epidemic prevention measures, and isolation of China's trade partners. Recently, the People's Daily published an article about Xi Jinping's expectations for young people, but hardship was mentioned multiple times. Xi Jinping also encouraged young people to work in the countryside, which was criticized as being out of touch with Chinese reality. It makes one wonder, is hardship really the only way out for young Chinese people? Xi Jinping's father, Xi Zhongxun, warned long ago that China's problems cannot be solved by relying on great leaders and studying the speeches of leaders. That's it for today's News Digest. I hope you like it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time. Take care.